Chapter 3, The Night Everything Changed, just not for the better. Shortly after returning home from vacation, there was a gathering with the people in the leadership program. This program was a 6-month intensive program, and I really missed everyone after not seeing anyone in the group for weeks. However, I was a little apprehensive about going because I knew it would cause tension at home. At this point, the blame for our relationship problems had shifted from an affair to me not having time for him. He saw this program as culprit number 1 for my busy schedule. Yes, the program was time intensive, but it was only a part of what filled my schedule, and we were still spending a lot of time together. However, I wanted to respect his feelings. I wouldn't skip the party because seeing my friends was important, but I wanted him to feel comfortable with me going. So the plan was he was going to drop me off and pick me up. That way, he could be in control of when I got there and when I left. Our oldest had practice that Friday night, so he would drop me off on the way to practice and then pick me up after. Trying to be the nice guy he always was, he kept telling me that I could stay out later if I wanted. I could either catch a ride home with someone else or use a rideshare. Given everything that was going on with us, I didn't know if that would be a good idea. So I kept saying that I would keep it in mind, but right now, my plan was for him to pick me up. The night finally came, and he dropped me off at the gathering. As I exited the car, I said goodbye and told the girls good night. That was a mistake. He had been telling me the whole way there that I could stay out later and not to rush home because of him. As soon as I said goodnight to the girls, his head snapped towards me and he said, "I thought you weren't staying out late, but we were picking you up." To this I said, "Right now I'm planning on you picking me up, but you keep telling me to stay out later. If I do stay out later, I want to be sure I tell the girls goodnight now. If I don't stay out later, I'll tell them goodnight again at home. I would rather tell them goodnight twice than not at all." While he said okay, I think this was the first trigger for what would happen later that night. The gathering was great. It felt so good to catch up with everyone, and the turnout was fantastic. During one of the conversations with a gentleman from the group, I mentioned that my family was at practice and they would be swinging by to pick me up after. Knowing that it would add about 20 to 30 minutes of driving for my family to drive to the gathering and then back home, he offered to drive me home, seeing he had to go right by my house. I will admit that I didn't know how I felt about this. Would my husband be upset if I was alone in a car with this guy? Or would my husband consider this guy safe because he knew his wife? I felt it could be a 50-50 chance, but I was having fun and didn't want to leave yet. To play it safe, I didn't send a text to let him know I'd be catching a ride home, as he told me to do if my plans changed, but I called him. That way, I could potentially hear it in his voice if he had any problems with the arrangement. He seemed to be okay with it and told me to stay out as late as I wanted, and if he was not up when I got home, he would see me in the morning. It was a warm night, so shortly later, a group of us decided to hang in the pool, and I left my phone inside. Later, as I gathered my clothes to change before heading home, I noticed I had 3 text messages from my husband. The first was confirming that I had a ride home because he was about to put the girls to bed. He didn't want to put them to bed and then have to get them out of bed to come get me. The second was a little while later and was questioning why I hadn't responded. The third was full of panic, and he asked me to please respond so he knew I was okay. This was 100% out of character. I'm not always attached to my phone and don't always look at it when I'm with people, so getting the first message from him was normal. But the next 2 were not like him at all. He's not the type of person to panic or question if I don't respond. The amount of time that did pass between texts without a response would have never sent him into a panic before. Quickly, I let him know that I had been in the pool, but I was leaving to head home. He immediately responded that he just wanted to know that I was okay and that there was no need to rush. I answered that I was leaving anyway and would be home soon. When I arrived home, I couldn't find him at first. He had let the girls, who were sound asleep, have a movie night slumber party in the living room. I checked our bedroom and the office, but he was not there. I then noticed a light on in the backyard. I thought it was strange that he was out there because he hates sitting outside almost any night because of mosquitoes, and summer nights in Florida are very warm. But there he was, sitting by the fire pit, drinking. I could see the tension I had felt earlier through the text messages, and I immediately went into let me fix this mode. His frustration seemed to ease and increase again throughout the conversation, but I thought progress was being made. At one point, he made a half-joking comment. In my mind, this was a sign that we were almost there and he was coming out of his mood. So I did what I always do and made a witty comment back to get him to smile. You see, that was my power in the relationship. I could always tell when something was bothering him. Often, I could sense his frustration and anger before he even realized the emotions himself because I could read him like a book and notice slight changes in his tone or body language. Typically, I wasn't the cause in the change in the emotions, but I wanted to help him overcome these feelings. They say laughter is the best medicine. In our case, it typically was. I would find ways to get him to smile and laugh that were special to us and played off our bond. With each curl of the lips, even when he tried his best to hold everything back, he would slip out of his mood and return to my happy, fun-loving husband. So that night, a smile was all I wanted. It was my goal, and I felt like it was within reach when I made my witty remark to his half-joking comment. But that night it didn't work. That night, my comment backfired like I had never seen before. Instead of laughing, he became mad. Instead of seeing humor, he snapped. I was so shocked that I can't remember everything that he said, but he got up mad, mentioned that he was leaving, and went inside to pack a bag so he could drive to his parents in Tennessee that night. At that moment, I knew I needed to stop him. A part of me wondered if he was drunk. I knew he had 2 empty beer bottles outside, but I didn't know what he might have drunk before I came home. While this behavior wasn't normal for when he drank, being drunk might be one explanation for his reaction, and if he was drunk, I couldn't let him leave the house. Or was it all just anger? If that was the case, I also knew I couldn't let him leave the house because he didn't need to drive filled with so much rage. Not only would he be a danger to himself, but to everyone else on the road. But more importantly, I couldn't let him leave the house because I loved him and wanted to help him calm down. I wanted to fix whatever was wrong that night and not go to bed worrying about whether he was safe or how to fix what was wrong between us long distance. I never feared that he would hit me, but I knew that just based on our size difference, there was no way I could physically stop him. So I did the next best thing. He set down his phone when he went to grab a suitcase. So I grabbed it and hid it as we have a Tesla and he uses the phone as a key. Then, with it being nighttime and him being in his comfy clothes, I knew he most likely didn't have his wallet on him. I found his wallet and hid it with his phone. That way, he wouldn't have his backup key or be able to pay for gas if he decided to take my car instead. In reality, this shouldn't have stopped him. After all, he could have grabbed my phone or a credit card from my wallet. Both were sitting in plain sight. However, his mind was not allowing him to see the bigger picture and was telling him that he was trapped seeing he didn't have his phone or wallet. It was only a temporary win, but I would take it. Of course, more arguing occurred. The details of the conversation are all lost, but I know it was loud and there were a lot of tears. At times, he would storm out of the house, walk around the block, and then come back, still insisting that he was leaving and demanding that I let him go. Over and over again, I was accused of being the blame for all of our problems. During one of his walks, I was on my bed crying so hard I felt like I couldn't breathe. Cocooned in blankets, I felt like everything was falling away from me and I couldn't stop it. That's when I heard the door open and little feet approaching the bed. A tear-filled, scared little voice asked me if I was okay. I choked back tears, put on the bravest voice, and said, "Yes, I'm okay. We're just having a little fight." I walked my then 9-year-old back to where she had been sleeping in the living room and cuddled her and her little sister until they were both asleep again. Of course, just like the other walks, things weren't magically better when he walked into the house. This time, I was more on a mission than ever to stop his outbursts because I was now painfully aware that our children were aware of that night's fighting. As the yelling raged on, I put every ounce of effort into making him understand how much I loved him and wanted him to stay. I repeated over and over how I hadn't cheated on him, had been 100% faithful, and had not given up on our marriage. Then I heard a sound that changed everything. Loud, crying sobs coming from the living room, from both girls. As soon as I heard the crying, I thought, I know how to stop this episode. You see, my husband is a fantastic father. He loves his girls and would do anything for them. He is their protector and always tries to shield them from anything they shouldn't be exposed to. In the 2 months of chaos that led to this night, never once would we argue within earshot of the girls, and the worst conversations happened when they were not home. I could use the girls and his love and protection for them to stop everything and get him to realize everyone he would be hurting if he left that night. My following words leave me with a lot of regret. I looked him in the eye and said, "You've woken the girls. They're upset. I've already put them back to bed once tonight. It's your turn to comfort them." Without missing a beat, he exited our bedroom and sat on the couch with both girls cuddled by his sides. The person he was as he spoke to them was someone I had never seen before and haven't seen since. The person who talked to our children that night had zero love in his voice or words. He didn't care who he hurt as long as he said the last painful word. There was no care about protecting the children as they now had become targets of his mood. He told the girls that he was leaving us. He said that we were getting a divorce and they just had to suck it up, as it happens to a lot of people. There was not an ounce of compassion. There was not an ounce of love. His words and tone were callous and evil. This was not my husband. This was not the man I had fallen in love with 15 years earlier. This was not the father of my children. I stood there, mouth open, asking myself, what did I do? I had just created a very traumatic experience for my children. I sent their father to comfort them instead of doing it myself, and this was the result. At the same time, two other thoughts raced through my mind. One, I am right. We are not having relationship problems. Two, oh my gosh, it's worse. My husband is having what appears to be a mental health breakdown.